Canadian men and women, and we want to support our businesses and give them the means to restart the economy and recreate prosperity in Canada. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We will take a brief break now for question period and member statements. I would remind the member from Portneuf-Jacques-Cartier that he will have 7 minutes and 15 seconds when we return to debate.
Déclaration de député.
Statements by members.
Lady Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to take this time to thank all of the frontline workers in my community, across Canada and around the world. It is particularly sad to note today that a number of frontline workers were among the people who were killed in Nova Scotia. Care aides, correction officers, an RCMP officer, and a firefighter. Frontline workers are living apart from their loved ones during this pandemic. A friend who is a nurse in my community has 2 young boys. She has not been able to hug her sons or spend time with them in person for weeks. It's a situation that is echoed in thousands of homes across the country. Frontline workers are making huge sacrifices to protect our communities and to keep essential services operating. That's why it's imperative that the rest of us, including those of us in this House, respect their sacrifices by continuing to follow the directives of health authorities, as I have called for in my point of order this morning.
Port Kells.
Mr. Speaker, we wish to join our colleague, the honourable member from Cumberland-Colchester, to offer our deepest condolences to all those touched by the senseless violence in Nova Scotia. But I rise now on behalf of the honourable member from Dartmouth-Cole Harbour to commend Nova Scotians helping to feed others, like the Canteen restaurant in Dartmouth. When they were forced to close their dining room due to COVID-19, they transformed their restaurant into a community kitchen to help feed others throughout the pandemic. Owners Renee and Doug are working with incredible organizations like the Dartmouth North Community Food Centre and Margaret's House, run by Feeding Others of Dartmouth, to provide hundreds of meals per week to those in need. Mr. Speaker, I ask all members in this House to thank businesses and organizations across Canada, like the Canteen, for stepping up to help their communities. I encourage everyone to lend a hand if they're able, from 6 feet apart, of course, to help others in need. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Niagara Falls.
Mr. Speaker, while the government's response to COVID-19 has demanded much of Parliament's attention, as it so deserves, we need to remember there are other important issues playing on in the background, which also deserves this Parliament's attention. In my riding, one of these issues is Australia's World Trade Organization challenge against the excise tax exemption for 100% made Canadian wines. This challenge was a major threat to our domestic wine industry before COVID-19. It's an even bigger threat now, as the impacts against our wine industry could be compounded if a ruling is made this summer in Australia's favour. If this happens, our Canadian wine industry will be devastated. More than 700 wineries and 9,000 Canadian jobs are at stake. While we're focused on responding to COVID and flattening the curve, the countdown to the WTO ruling on this case continues, and it requires Parliament's attention. Should the WTO rule against Canada, I sincerely hope this government will act soon to establish a trade legal program of equal or greater value to replace the existing excise tax exemption. Our Canadian wineries need this support, and I'm proud to stand in this House today and bring this attention to this most important matter. Thank you, Mr.
Le député de Gatineau.
The honourable member for Gatineau. Mr. Speaker.
Today, a number of us, on behalf of some of our colleagues who cannot be with us today, and this statement is on behalf of my colleague, the member from Brampton West. Mr. Speaker, I rise in the House today to show our gratitude and appreciation to all our frontline heroes. Millions of Canadians are risking their health and safety to fight the pandemic and serving their community as they continue to provide essential services. Our frontline hero is a mother who is providing critical care in the ICU as a doctor, a nurse who is working over 12-hour-long night shifts and testing and caring for our seniors. They are support and maintenance staff. They are truck drivers and grocery store workers. This pandemic has revealed just how essential their work is, and we owe them a huge debt of gratitude. As someone who has experienced COVID-19 firsthand, I can truly say that we have the best health care and an outstanding health care workforce in the world. I would like to take an opportunity to thank our public health doctors and nurses, and especially Peel Public Health, for the care and support they've provided me during these challenging times. As our frontline heroes continue to risk their lives for us, Let's all do our part and thank them by continuing to stay at home. Thank you.
Honorable député.
The honourable member for Salaberry-sur-Loire. Mr. Speaker, I'd like to underscore that in these exceptional circumstances, it is Volunteer Action Week. On behalf of the Bloc Québécois, we'd like to thank all volunteers in Quebec. You were essential yesterday before COVID-19 shook Quebec society, and you're even more essential today as you work on the front lines to help your community. I'd like to thank all those who are lifting up essential organizations in our regions. Everywhere, you're ensuring that people who are in precarious situations have access to food support and a roof over their heads. And also on helplines and other forms of support. Most importantly, you're ensuring that everywhere people who are isolated have an empathetic ear to listen to them. And during this crisis, I'd like to thank the 26,000 new people who answered the Quebec government's call by offering time. And we're thinking about you. And when we'll be over this crisis, your help will remain just as precious. Thank you so much. The Honourable for Orléans. Thank you very much. Since the beginning of this pandemic, I was listening to the business community of Orleans, and I'm proud of what we've done so far. Thanks to the CIBA and to its expansion, we've seen companies such as respirators now be eligible to emergency loans without interest. Thanks to the emergency wage subsidy, many employers will be able to rehire their employees, even in Orleans, as this will cover 75% of an employee's salary. I know that many business people in Orleans are looking forward to upcoming measures to help them, such as commercial rent support for companies. And for companies that are still concerned, I'm going to continue to work with the government and to share your concerns. And, Mr. Speaker, if I may, I'd like to pay tribute to all those people in Orleans who are working in essential services. We thank you. Thank you.
Grasslands.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. A small business owner from my riding used to employ 7 part-time and full-time employees. She hopes to rehire all of them once the pandemic ends, if she is able to reopen at all. She's been able to keep 2 employees on payroll and has been able to maintain a small amount of business by utilizing online sales. Any revenue goes directly back into the business to keep the lights on and her 2 employees paid. The emergency wage subsidy will eventually help keep those 2 employees hired. Because of this, though, her accountant advised her that she is unable to access financial assistance for herself and her family. She would be better off to close her shop and risk losing everything. Small businesses and job creators are the backbone of our economy. If that is true, we have to ask why this government's plan will leave a mother of 3 in a position where she is working harder than ever just to keep her business going without receiving any necessary support for her and her family.
The honourable member for Gatineau.
On behalf of my honourable colleague, the member for Alfred-Perron, I would like to recognize and show gratitude from all Canadians for the frontline workers and for all those who provide essential services, to our doctors, nurses, pharmacists, and healthcare personnel, to our ambulance drivers, truckers, police officers, farmers, pharmacies, restaurants, daycare educators, volunteers, and many other essential workers. In this fight against COVID-19, you are our soldiers. You work every day facing risks to serve your community. You are our guardian agents, and we are so lucky to have you. Your devotion is remarkable, and your courage inspiring. Thank you very much.
For Fleetwood, Port Kells.
Mr. Speaker, on behalf of my colleague, the Honourable Member of Parliament for Vaughan Woodbridge, I'd like to offer our heartfelt condolences to the 14 families in the city of Vaughan who've lost loved ones due to COVID-19. Our thoughts and prayers are with you all. COVID-19 has brought out vast challenges, but our government has responded, and we're here to support workers and businesses across the country. The Canada Emergency Business Account has helped to date over 200,000 businesses across Canada, businesses such as family-owned Menchie's in Vaughan Woodbridge, who, with the $40,000 interest-free loan, will be able to reopen for the summer. Mr. Speaker, through such programs as the CERB, CEBA, and now the Canada Emergency Wage Subsidy, our government will ensure that Canadian families and businesses will weather the challenges as we confront the issues that facing us as a country due to COVID-19. Together, Mr. Speaker, we will emerge stronger.
The honourable member for St. Albert, Edmonton.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Last week, this government signed a statement expressing full support and confidence in the WHO. In the face of COVID-19, Canadians should ask why. This, after all, is the same WHO that ignored Taiwan's early warnings about human-to-human transmission. This is the same WHO that has repeatedly praised China. This is the same WHO that criticized early travel restrictions from COVID hotspots that saved countless lives. And this is the same WHO that waited until March 11th to declare a global pandemic after COVID had spread to 114 countries. Instead of lavishing praise on the WHO, this government should be demanding answers.
The honourable member for Fleetwood, Port Kells.
Well, Mr. Speaker, on behalf of my friend and colleague, the honourable member for Coquitlam, Port Coquitlam, I rise to convey his message to his community. COVID-19 has challenged us as a world, as businesses, as neighbours, and as families. But what comes through most vividly is the essential resilience of our Tri-Cities community, as we each do our part, big or small, to flatten the curve. As Member of Parliament for Coquitlam, Port Coquitlam, I'm here to support and advocate for you. I hear your concerns and continue to work hard for you every day as we adapt and respond to the problems facing us. Whether you're a frontline or essential worker, restructuring your business, or simply staying at home, I recognize every individual who's stepped up, appreciate all the efforts made, and admire how so many have adapted to meet the challenges head on. We're truly in all of this in together. We're together. We're going to prevail by staying safe and staying healthy.
For Medicine Hat, Carson Warner.
Mr. Speaker, it's with a heavy heart and great sorrow that I rise on behalf of my colleagues in this House to mourn the tragic loss of RCMP Constable Heidi Stevenson and the many victims taken from us this weekend in Nova Scotia. As one voice, we condemn this violence and offer our support. These are difficult and already overwhelming times as we deal with and struggle through the challenges of the COVID crisis. And now we face this devastation. Constable Stevenson gave her life protecting her fellow Canadians, a sacrifice that will not be forgotten. Thank you to all of those on the front lines who risk their lives every day to serve and protect us. Our hearts and prayers go out to the families, friends, and colleagues who will feel this loss the most. You have our deepest sympathies and condolences. May the loved ones and communities of these victims find comfort in knowing that our entire country grieves with them. May God give you and all of us strength during this difficult time.
The member for Portneuf-Jacques-Cartier. Thank you very much. As a Canadian, I'm proud of the solidarity that we've shown during this crisis and when we are going through tough times like this one. On the day after this unprecedented shooting in Nova Scotia, I would like to take time to wish my condolences to the individuals affected by this tragedy and for all those in Nova Scotia. I would like to underscore the work of the police who every day risk their lives to protect us. Heidi Stevenson was amongst the victims who had worked for the RCMP for 23 years. She died doing her duty, and she is the mother of a 13-year-old son and a daughter as well. And this has changed the lives of many children and spouses and friends who have experienced such an unimaginable tragedy. I would like to quote Darcy Dobson, who lost his mother tragically in this shooting. Let us less memories define our victims and not the horrible way they died. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
COVID-19 has hit our seniors and elders particularly hard, especially those in long-term care. We know seniors are more at risk, and many of us are doing everything we can to protect our parents and grandparents. All of us have watched the heartbreaking scenes of loved ones standing outside long-term care homes, trying to let their elders know they aren't alone. We've all seen dedicated staff overwhelmed by it all as well. For many years, federal and provincial governments have created cracks within our long-term care system to the point where it cannot fully serve residents in a safe and dignified manner. This crisis has shown us what must finally be done to properly support our long-term care system. We need national standards and the funding necessary to enact them. Our vulnerable seniors and their loved ones deserve nothing less. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for La Prairie. Mr. Speaker, on behalf of the Bloc, I have several people I'd like to thank today. First and foremost, from the bottom of my heart, I'd like to thank health professionals, to those who are taking care of people in our hospitals and long-term care facilities. To all those who are on the front lines to help our seniors and patients, I'd like to thank the essential service workers, the truckers, the farmers, the workers at grocery stores and pharmacies, public service servants and others. I'd like to thank our artists who are showing creativity to make our situation a little bit more tolerable. I'd also like to thank all Quebecers for the sacrifices that they are making every day, whether it's in terms of people who are setting aside a job or a company, parents who are trying to balance working from home with their little monsters, the children who are missing their friends and their activities, the grandparents that in some cases haven't yet met newborns, grieving families who weren't able to say goodbye to someone they loved with dignity. I'd like to thank all these people, and let's hang on.
New Brunswick Southwest.
The Blue Nose Province, like my home in neighboring New Brunswick, is a place where small rural communities share a special bond. Our communities are an extension of our families. And when tragedy strikes one community, it is felt by us all. I do not have the words to properly express how the shooting rampage in Portapique and its surroundings have shaken our nation, as has the death of Constable Heidi Stevenson, a 23-year RCMP veteran and mother of two. It is with deep gratitude that I pay tribute to those who answered the call to protect our communities. To the families and colleagues who lost loved ones, we share your anguish. We will work together to get through this. You are not alone. Our nation, our country stands with you.
The honourable member for Gatineau.
The Maritimes, it's hard to imagine the unspeakable horror that is coursing through these small communities in Nova Scotia today. And I would like to finish by reading the following statement on behalf of my colleague, the member from Cumberland-Colchester. In the early hours of April 19th, 2020, Cumberland-Colchester woke up to find a devastating tragedy had played out in our peaceful little corner of the world in northern Nova Scotia. Words cannot express my sorrow for the families, friends, fellow workers, and communities who have suddenly lost a loved one. My heart goes out to everyone affected by this selfless act of violence. In short, all of us. Meanwhile, we northern Nova Scotians are strong. We will rise again to fight another day.
Oral questions. Question orale. The Leader of the Opposition.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, and I know that I speak for all members of this House when I say that we are all devastated by the shocking news out of Nova Scotia. A killer has taken the lives of at least 19 people, each one of them a tragic loss for families and friends. As the RCMP uncover the details of this senseless loss, our thoughts, prayers, and support are with the communities reeling from the fallout of these tragic events. We also thank the first responders, medical professionals who responded to the victims, as well as the RCMP, who lost Officer Heidi Stevenson. We cannot imagine the grief and heartache that their families are going through. Can the Prime Minister update this House as to the current situation in Nova Scotia?
Well, Prime Minister.
Yesterday, we were all shaken by the senseless violence and evil in Nova Scotia. As we learn more about what happened, it's important that we come together to support each other. I've spoken with Premier McNeil, RCMP Commissioner Lucky, Minister of Public Safety, and many Nova Scotians, including our Nova Scotia caucus. I know that people have a lot of questions, This is an ongoing investigation, but I can assure you that the RCMP will keep us updated even as they themselves grieve their own loss. Constable Heidi Stevenson. Today, all Canadians are Nova Scotians.
The Leader of the Opposition.
I'd like to thank the Prime Minister for his response and certainly echo his sentiments. Mr. Speaker, on March 12th in this chamber, I asked the government how many ventilators they had procured to prepare for the wave of COVID-19 cases that were coming. In response, the Deputy Prime Minister said, quote, "We are already leading a bulk national procurement effort to ensure Canadians have the necessary medical equipment." A month later, I asked how many new ventilators the government had obtained under this strategy. The Prime Minister answered, quote, "It will still be a few weeks before they arrive." Today is April 20th. So again, Mr. Speaker, I'd like to ask how many new ventilators has the government been able to obtain under the national procurement strategy?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, we've sent 400 ventilators to provinces and territories and have contracts with 3 Canadian companies who will supply 30,000 ventilators starting in May.
Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Continue to raise serious concerns about the accuracy of information coming out of China. The advice and direction from the WHO depends on the honesty and transparency of its member countries. This government has ignored Canadian experts who are calling for swift and decisive action much sooner. The government chose to continue air travel between China and Canada and waited weeks to impose travel restrictions. Yet the Prime Minister and his Health Minister continued to vouch for the government of China. Going forward, will this government continue to trust information coming from the Communist government of China?
The Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, from the very beginning, we followed the best public health advice. We engaged early to keep Canadians safe and prevent the spread of the virus. On January 2nd, the Public Health Agency of Canada alerted all provincial health authorities. On January 14th, Dr. Theresa Tam and the Public Health Agency of Canada convened a meeting of the Canadian Council of Medical Officers of Health. We convened the Incident Response Group in January. We enhanced airport screening measures in January and increased as the situation evolved. We will continue to respond to the situation as it evolves, and we will continue to base our decisions on the best available facts and evidence.
Well, Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, there are reports that 3 Canadian planes that left China to pick up medical equipment from China returned to Canada empty. The planes were supposed to return last night. Can the government confirm whether or not those planes, in fact, were scheduled, whether or not they arrived, and whether or not they were able to obtain the medical equipment that they were sent to obtain?
Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, over the past weeks, we've been engaged in unprecedented efforts, collaborating with partners and friends around the world to ensure that we can get the PPE and medical equipment so necessary for Canadians on the front lines in hospitals and across the country. That is what we continue to do. We have teams on the ground in China and elsewhere to coordinate the arrival of the departure and arrival of shipments. We have had challenges with those shipments as the global competition for these items are fierce. We will continue to work as best we can to ensure that we continue to deliver all the necessary equipment to our heroes working on the front lines.
Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, when it comes to that equipment, after the 2015 election, this government decided to cut funding for pandemic preparedness. In 2014, the funding for those health security measures was $73 million. The funding for this year is just $51 million. The government also decided to dump millions of masks and gloves, and they decided to close the warehouses that were holding this extra equipment in case of a pandemic. It was only because the owner of a dumpster company who put in a bid for the contract to dispose of these items that we even have these details. So, simple question for the Prime Minister: when did he sign off on the plan to throw away personal protective equipment?
Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, we were very troubled by the story about the reports of valuable medical supplies in our national stockpile being destroyed. As we looked into it, we discovered that those items had actually been expired for 5 years. and, of course, after 5 years are not suitable for use anywhere else. That is why we have to ask ourselves questions about how items that approach the end of their lives could, instead of being kept in stockpiles, instead be shipped for immediate use in places that could use them and get those items replaced. Obviously, that didn't happen, and we need to make sure that we have better protocols going forward so we don't find ourselves in a situation like this.
The honourable member for Belleuil-Chambly. Thank you very much. Certainly we'll be able to look at some aspects of this later, but I would prefer to look at solutions. And I'd like to express my sincere concerns for the seniors of our society. My question is, can you tell this House what has been done during this crisis to benefit seniors of Canada and Quebec? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. I'd like to thank my colleague from Belleuil-Chambly, who for quite some time has given particular attention to seniors. So I'd like to thank him for his leadership and suggestions. Seniors do greatly need support because of COVID-19. We're continue to protect their financial security with GST credit for low-income seniors. And we've also increased RIF contributions, and we're using United Way to help seniors to provide them medicines and other essential goods, and we continue to work with the provinces to ensure the protection of seniors. The honourable member for Belleuil-Chambly. Without being ungrateful, you'll understand that I consider that for seniors this is very little. Can I ask the Prime Minister to have a clear response, written response, because the Bloc made very clear recommendations and proposals 2 weeks ago. And before we leave this House today, can we have an answer and perhaps a discussion with solutions that may, in the grand scheme of things, may not seem very costly based on what's already been allotted? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, we continue to work on measures recommended by the members of the opposition to help our seniors through this crisis. And we are facing a challenge that particularly targets seniors. And often seniors are isolated and they're concerned about the impact of this virus on the employees that work around them in their residences. We have a lot of concerns for seniors, and we're going to continue to work together to solve these challenges. Thank you.
Merci, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. A student, Camille, at the University of Montreal, did not earn enough hours to be eligible for employment insurance, and she's not eligible for CERB. She's told us she's afraid, she's sad, and she's disappointed. Can the Prime Minister, is he ready today to say that if someone needs assistance, they can be eligible for CERB? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. We understand that this is a very stressful situation for Canadians, clearly for students as well who are in post-secondary studies. Often students who have summer jobs are alone now and they don't know what's going to happen in the coming months. We've made changes to the summer jobs program that will create opportunities for young people. It allows them to keep ties with the job market and to save for the future. And there's the wage subsidy that will allow many more employers hire students, and students who already had employment last year or who worked during the school year are eligible if they've earned more than $5,000 in income for the CERB, and many students will be. So we realize there's more to be done to help students such as Camille, and we're going to do this. Thank you.
Le député de Burnaby Sud.
The honourable member for Burnaby South.
The reality is far too many Canadians are falling through the cracks. In particular, students. Summer jobs have disappeared, on-campus jobs have disappeared, and they do not qualify for the CERB. Students are just one of many examples of people who are falling through the cracks because of their criteria. So will the Prime Minister announce today that the CERB is universal, that anyone who needs access to help now can get that help? Will the Prime Minister just do that today?
Right, Honourable Prime Minister.
Recognize the particular stresses that are on students right now who would normally be starting their summer jobs and right now have no money to pay their rents, no prospect of summer jobs to get the experience they need, and many of them are even uncertain about being able to pay next year's tuition. We understand these stresses and are looking at ways to support them. Many students do qualify for the CERB because they had a job, full-time or part-time last year, that allows them to claim the CERB with having made $5,000 in income over the past year. But many do not. That's why we've made increases to the summer jobs program. It's why we are also going to be moving forward with more initiatives to help students particularly.
Honourable Member for Barrie Innisfil.
We know the Medical Intelligence Cell of the Department of National Defence reported on the risk of COVID-19 in early January, and Global Affairs would have been reporting on it around the same time. It's very likely that the Ministers of Defence and Global Affairs, at a minimum, would have been briefed on the detailed warnings and analysis about the emergence of the deadly potential of the coronavirus in Wuhan, China. It's even more likely that the Privy Council office would have briefed the Prime Minister on the emerging threat. On what date did the PCO prepare a briefing note for the Prime Minister?
The Honourable Deputy Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, the coronavirus is a global pandemic, and as such, it poses a profound security threat to Canada. For that reason, Canada's intelligence community has been deeply engaged in informing the government's actions. That is why, in January, the Incident Response Group was convened by the Prime Minister, where briefings were shared and discussed. Thank you.
Member for Barrie Innisfil.
Well, once again, Mr. Speaker, in early January, MEDINT, the cell of our country's military intelligence branch, began producing those detailed warnings. On January 30th, the WHO declared the outbreak a public health emergency of international concern. In the backdrop of these two warnings, our government shipped 16 tons of personal protective equipment to China in February and left Canada scrambling to find supplies to protect our frontline healthcare workers. Did the Minister of Health know about the DND report, and did she receive a briefing note from the Privy Council office on it?
The Honourable Minister of Health.
Mr. Speaker, in a global pandemic, the principle is that all countries work together to defeat the virus where it is most present. In January, the outbreak in Wuhan, China was posing a significant public health threat to the entire world. As such, and as a partner country with the WHO, Canada supplied some personal protective equipment that was rapidly becoming out of date to Canada, and that could certainly be used in Wuhan's efforts to fight the virus there.
The Honourable Member for Portneuf-Jacques-Cartier. Mr. Speaker, because of the government's hesitation to close the borders of our country, it allowed thousands of people to come into the country and put Canadians at risk. After many calls from our party, Roxham Road was finally closed. But once again, many illegal crossings of the border and no security measures were taken to prevent them. My question is simple. I would like to know how many illegal migrants have come to Canada since the beginning of the pandemic.
Minister for Public Safety.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, in early March, we began discussions with our allies and partners who share the Canada-U.S. border with us on how we could restrict non-essential travel. That discussion took place and culminated in an agreement between our two countries to restrict non-essential travel, but while still allowing essential workers and trade to continue to move forward. As part of that agreement, we implemented significant new restrictions on people who cross our borders irregularly as non-essential. That has been a very effective measure that has been put in place. And since the time of that agreement, now 30 days ago, there have been fewer than 10 individuals who have crossed the border and been subsequently directed back to the United States.
The Honourable Member for Portneuf-Jacques-Cartier. Mr. Speaker, our entrepreneurs are anxious. Many are not sure that they'll be able to reopen their doors. Debts are accumulating, and income, obviously, is not at the level it needs to be. When it comes to the rent assistance program for commercial businesses, isn't enough. When our small and medium businesses need details about this program to pay their commercial rents and to reopen when that will be allowed, when will this happen? The Honourable Minister for Middle Class Prosperity. Mr. Speaker, as Canadians are taking measures to fight COVID-19, we know that many businesses are afraid that they will not be able to pay their rents. Business owners in the entire country have offered a break to their renters to help them get through this difficult time, and our government welcomes their leadership. To recognize these challenges that businesses are facing, as well as Canadian owners, our government is going to implement the Canada Emergency Benefit for commercial rents. We're setting up partnerships with provincial and territorial governments, and we are working on that right now. Thank you.
Number 4, Calgary Shepherd.
Tony Garrow, Marley Gagnon, Carolyn Turner, and Paul Lederger are some of the small business health professionals in my riding who are being left behind by the gaps in the Canadian Emergency Business Account and the wage subsidy programs. These programs continue to exclude tens of thousands of small businesses from receiving help by refusing to recognize dividend income as employment income. As Conservatives, we've been calling on the government to fix the gap. Why will they not consider dividends as a form of salary for entrepreneurs so they can qualify for the emergency supports they desperately need?
The Honourable Minister for Small Businesses.
Mr. Speaker, the Canadian small businesses that the Honourable Member talks about are really important to all of our businesses in every community across the country. That's why we've made supports available through the Canada Emergency Business Account, as well as the Canadian Emergency Wage Subsidy, so that businesses all across the country can access the funds to help bridge some of the costs that they need during this period and also keep our employees. This is about saving businesses and saving employees all across the country, Mr. Speaker.
Member for Calgary Shepherd.
CFIB data suggests that 1/3 of Canadian small businesses will never open again if the government continues to drag its feet in getting financial support into their hands. Small business loan programs established through the BDC and Export Development Canada are desperately needed. But many small business owners worry that it simply won't be enough to save them. To the Minister of Finance or any minister in this government, how many small businesses have received funding from the BDC and the EDC separately reported over their regular loan volume, and what is the government doing to speed up program deployment?
The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, we are listening to small businesses all across the country. As of Friday, and today those numbers would be even higher, almost 250,000 business owners and businesses across the country have seen their loans approved. This is real help that will help all of our businesses across the country, and we will continue to help them because we've expanded the criteria so that more businesses can access our $40,000 interest-free loan. So if you're a business, $20,000 of payroll up to $1.5 million, we're going to help even more businesses in the country. Nothing is more important than helping our businesses right now.
Great answer,
Le député de Shefford.
The Honourable Member for Shefford. Mr. Speaker, first of all, please allow me to offer my sincerest condolences to those families who have victims to COVID-19 who've lost a loved one without being able to truly say goodbye. Seniors are the most affected by COVID-19, and they have the least support. They are suffering due to the increased cost of groceries, and they're seeing their retirement funds essentially melting like snow in the sun. Will the government hear their call for help and increase their pension by $110 a month? The Honourable Minister. Mr. Speaker, I'd like to thank my colleague for the question. We are quite concerned with what all Canadians are going through, especially seniors. Currently, for seniors who have lower modest incomes, we're offering an additional payment as part of a benefit that could go up to $4,000 for an individual. We're also offering a certain degree of flexibility for our seniors when it comes to the mandatory withdrawals from retirement income funds. We've reduced it, and we are going to continue to support seniors during this terrible pandemic. The Honourable Member for Shefford. Mr. Speaker, it would seem that Like with GST credit, that's not enough. Our seniors need support to get through this crisis, and once it's over, we're going to need them to relaunch the economy, especially in our regions. However, seniors are getting impoverished because of price increases. Increasing their pension by $100 a month is a minimum, and their retirement funds are suffering from reduced rates of return. Will the government increase pension and remove the requirement to withdraw from retirement income funds? The Honourable Minister. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As I said previously, we will continue to support seniors with a certain degree of flexibility when it comes to the mandatory withdrawals from RIFs. We're reducing them to allow those funds to remain more stable during a period of volatility. Because of also, seniors are eligible for CERB. We will continue to support seniors during this very difficult time. The Honourable Member for Shefford. Mr. Speaker, speaking of help for seniors, all throughout Quebec, our offices are being flooded with calls from seniors who need help from the government, but Service Canada offices are closed, and there's no way to talk to a human being at Service Canada or at the Canada Revenue Agency. The government is letting seniors try to figure out internet by themselves, and help is not getting to them. What's the government doing to facilitate access to services, and will it set up a direct line for all members to be able to help our seniors? The Honourable Minister. Our government has committed to ensuring that Canadians have access to the benefits provided by Service Canada, which they need.
We are dispatching Service Canada community liaison officers to vulnerable communities, working also with intermediary trusted organizations to enable people to be aware of alternative modes of service online as well as telephone numbers. We have also increased the capacity of our phone lines and other supports to make sure that people can get the help that they need. We will ensure that even when people do not have a barrier to those services, that we make an exceptional circumstance and an appointment may be made to help them. Thank you.
The Honourable Member for Aurora Oak Ridges, Richmond Hill.
Mr. Speaker, public health measures are working to stop the spread of COVID-19 with the number of new cases starting to stabilize. Now is the time to begin to prepare to ensure we are ready at the earliest possible moment to restart our economy. What is the national strategy for supporting virus and antibody testing? When will widespread contact tracing be available? How will the government address critical shortages of medical items? Canadians need to see a plan. When will the Liberals provide a national plan to get this country back to work?
Minister of Health.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I agree with the member opposite that this needs to be a coordinated national plan, and that's why right now we're working with provinces and territories to address the many facets that she identifies, whether it's research, whether it's support for public health, whether it's boosting up our healthcare system across the country. These are steps that we need to take together and in a coordinated fashion. We'll continue that hard work, Mr. Speaker, and we'll come back to Canadians when we have a plan that will protect their safety first and foremost and allow people to get back to work.
The Honourable Member for Aurora Oak Ridges, Richmond Hill.
Mr. Speaker, frontline workers are doing amazing work to fight this virus and to keep us safe. Now, the federal government has to do its part so that Canada can go back to normal. Before raising restrictions, some conditions need to be put into place. For example, the government needs to solve the problems of lack of access to equipment and medication. When will this government give us a national plan to reopen Canada? The Honourable Minister of Health. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Opposite, it's extremely important that we work together with provinces and territories to ensure that we have a strong fabric to protect Canadians' health and safety while we begin the long, hard work of restarting our economy and getting Canadians back to work. This will require research. This will require evidence. This will also require investments in public health and supporting local and provincial governments to do the hard work of contact tracing and isolating close contacts. Mr. Speaker, I'm looking forward to that work with my colleagues, and we'll continue to update the House as we do it. Thank you.
The Honourable Member for New Brunswick Southwest.
Mr. Speaker, As Canada moves from self-isolation and closures to a gradual reopening of communities and businesses, a high level of testing for COVID-19 will be needed, especially in areas that experience a second wave. Yet concerns are increasing that the federal government has not adequately ramped up the availability of tests, as was successfully done in Taiwan and South Korea. What is the federal government's plan to initiate large-scale testing to coincide with the lifting of self-isolation, and how many test kits are needed to begin?
The Honourable Minister of Health.
Well, thank you, Mr. President, and I will say that Mr. Speaker, and I will say that in Canada, we have one of the highest testing rates in the world, and we're very proud of the work that's happening all across the country at all levels of government, but also from private industry who have been racing to ensure that we have new tools and new testing approaches as the science develops. We are constantly working to increase, for example, laboratory capacity, to approve testing kits. In fact, we've approved the use of 10 new testing kits across the country that will help accelerate testing and speed up results. Mr. Speaker, this is a work in progress, but we are confident we're on the right track.
The Honourable Member for Rosemont-la-Petite-Patrie. Mr. Speaker, an article published on the Ricochet website revealed troubling information about gaps in our preparation. In 2003, we went through SARS, but the government does not seem to have learned its lesson. South Korea had everything it needed to test everyone and to provide masks to everyone. And here we're still chasing down equipment. That means the mortality rate in Quebec is 23 times higher than in South Korea. What measures will the government take to provide personal protective equipment to healthcare workers? The Honourable Minister for Health.
Mr. Speaker, and in fact, it's been all hands on deck to try and secure personal protective equipment for healthcare workers across the provinces and territories. In fact, the federal government has been working very closely with our counterparts to ensure that not only do we find supplies, that we place those orders together and that we're able to get those orders out of countries, but also we've been ramping up our ability to produce personal protective equipment and other medical supplies domestically, which will greatly increase our capacity to ensure an ongoing supply going forward. I will say, Mr. Speaker, it is a tragedy that so many people have lost their lives across this country, particularly in long-term care homes, which I know the province of Quebec is struggling with, and we continue to work with those with our counterparts to protect those lives.
Député de Rosemont-la-Petite-Patrie.
The Honourable Member for Rosemont-la-Petite-Patrie. Mr. Speaker, sometimes the best solutions are the simplest of ideas. We're all making an incredible collective effort to get through this crisis. We're investing billions to support people and businesses. Poland and Denmark just had a brilliant idea. Companies who are registered in tax havens won't have access to public health. Companies that don't pay their fair share will be able to receive our help. Will the government follow that example?
L'Honorable Ministre.
The Honourable Minister.
Mr.
Mr. Speaker, in these extraordinary times, no Canadian should have to be worried about paying their bills or their rent or feed their family. Our government is committed to supporting Canadians, our healthcare system, and our economy. And in the first phase of the economic intervention plan to respond to COVID-19, we're providing immediate assistance to Canadians and businesses. We will continue to do so over the next several weeks. Thank you.
Député d'Orléans.
The Honourable Member for Orleans. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. In a time of uncertainty like this one, we depend on the talent and ingenuity of Canadians from coast to coast. Canadians understand that we have to focus on national production for essential goods.
In Canada, not only are we supporting our healthcare and frontline workers, but also ensuring some small and medium-sized businesses can stay open across the country. Can the Minister update this House on Canadian businesses' response to the government's call to action?
The Honourable Minister for Small Businesses.
J'aimerais remercier de la députée.
I would like to thank the member for Orleans for her question. Over the last several weeks, she's worked hard to defend the interests of businesses in her riding.
Times we have seen our small businesses put up their hands and ask us what they can do to help. And because of them, our government is investing $2 billion to purchase protective personal equipment, including things like more masks, face shields, gowns, ventilators, test kits, swabs, and hand sanitizers. And we've launched Canada's plans to mobilize industry to fight COVID-19 to ensure that we can quickly produce right here in Canada the things that we need to protect the spread of the virus. And we admire the innovative of our small businesses in their trade, and this is their trademark, and this is why they are the core of our plan, and our businesses are the backbone of the economy, and they are helping us get...
The honourable member for Haliburton Kawartha Lakes Brock.
Thank you, Speaker. The forestry industry was in crisis before the pandemic, with mills closing down and thousands of jobs lost. If our forestry industry is in jeopardy, the production of medical supplies, toilet paper, and other essential products are also in jeopardy. Has this government analyzed the impact of the sawmill closures on downstream production, such as toilet paper and PPE? And what specific measures will the government take to ensure the long-term viability of the forest sector?
The Honourable Deputy Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I agree with the member opposite about how important our forestry sector is, and the crisis today reminds us of how essential products of that industry are. The pulp, which is produced by Harmac on Vancouver Island, is an essential input into many of the medical goods which are saving lives today. Over the past week, I have had many discussions with leaders in our forestry sector and with the provinces about what we can do to support the industry today.
Haliburton Kawartha Lakes Brock.
Thank you, Speaker. The tourism industry has been devastated and the recovery post-COVID-19 is uncertain. Bookings have been cancelled well into 2021. Small businesses also in my riding are reeling from inconsistencies in the BDC. SMEs who took out loans just prior to the shutdown and hadn't opened are expected to pay the interest on principals they aren't yet required to pay. So 2 questions. First, will the government consider extending the wage subsidy program for tourism-based small businesses? And second, will the government consider giving SMEs struggling under COVID-19 a break on their interest payments?
The Honourable Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We recognize that in some sectors like tourism, as well as seasonal businesses, they're facing the unique realities and the challenges of COVID-19, and that is why the Prime Minister and our Minister of Economic Development announced an investment of $675 million in our 6 regional development agencies and $287 million in the Community Futures Network. These supports and investments are going to help this very critical sector and those many, many small and medium-sized businesses across the country. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Medicine Hat, Carson Warner.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. 3 weeks ago, the Finance Minister said help was coming for the energy sector within hours. Then nothing. Crickets. Now, finally, they announced something for orphan wells. However, it is woefully inadequate for an energy sector and economy already decimated by this Liberal government. What will the Prime Minister's plan be when 7% of our GDP, hundreds of thousands of jobs, and hundreds of billions of dollars in federal and provincial tax revenues are permanently lost because of his continued indifference and hostility toward Canada's energy sector?
The Honourable Deputy Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, our government is far from indifferent to Canada's oil and gas sector. We know how essential the energy sector is to our country and how the energy sector is the source of hundreds of thousands of well-paying middle-class jobs. That is why last week our government announced unprecedented support for workers in the energy sector in the form of support for orphan wells. This work is long overdue, and let me point out to the member opposite, it was welcomed by the Premier of Alberta.
Member for Cypress Hills Grasslands.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Grain and oilseed farmers are in a cash crunch crisis as they prepare for spring seeding. They are trying to buy seed, fuel, and fertilizer. Most do not qualify for the Canada Emergency Business Account, and the funding to Farm Credit Canada only benefits existing FCC customers. According to the Canadian Federation of Agriculture, only 25% of Canadian farmers will benefit from the additional credit to FCC. Since the government has failed to account for the specific needs of farmers, when will they announce a real plan that will help feed the people who feed this country?
Honourable Minister of Agriculture.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I can assure you that we are with the farmers. I'm speaking to farmers, to food processors, to retailers every day. And yes, we have put in place some additional measures through FCC, and more than $2 billion have been given in terms of loan to support them with their cash flow challenges. We have also moved the stay of default to the advanced payment program. We have also invested $20 million through the CFIA to make sure that food safety was assured in Canada and that we would support our food processing plants. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable député de Joliette.
The Honourable Member for Joliette. Mr. Speaker, workers and retirees are worried. They need reassurance. After the COVID-19 pandemic, we're likely to be facing a bankruptcy pandemic. Many retirement plans are in deficit because of the stock market. But in case of bankruptcy, retirees take priority after everyone else. What will the government do to protect retirement plans? Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I'd like to thank my honourable colleague for the question about retirement plans. Currently, we have implemented emergency measures, an economic plan to help Canadians during this pandemic. We're going to look at how we can continue to support Canadians and retirees over the next several weeks. The Honourable Member for Joliette. Yes, Mr. Speaker. If there's one thing that the pandemic is reminding us is that there's nothing more important than protecting our people. But workers and retirees are not well protected. If a business goes bankrupt, banks have priority over them. Even the government has priority over them, and they're likely to end up with very meager retirements, even if they've paid into it for their entire lives. Bankruptcies are going to go up, and it will be too late to act. Will the government ensure that those who have retirement plans are priority creditors? Answer. We've been working for several weeks to put forward an emergency plan, an economic plan that will help Canadian men and women and businesses to get through this crisis. We're going to continue to do so. We're going to continue to support Canadian men and women and retirees and put their needs forward.
St. Albert, Edmonton.
Speaker, the Chinese Communist regime repeatedly destroyed and falsified information about the spread of COVID-19, all the while imprisoning whistleblowers. As a result, a regional health problem became a global catastrophe. What measures is this government prepared to undertake to hold the Chinese Communist regime accountable?
The Honourable Deputy Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, this is a global pandemic. That's why international cooperation and information sharing are absolutely essential. We can all help each other and save lives by gathering and sharing the most accurate information possible. Having said that, decisions about Canada are made by Canadians based on the advice of Canada's world-renowned experts. Finally, Mr. Speaker, I think everyone in this House appreciates that democracies are transparent in a way authoritarian regimes can never be.
For Lanark, Frontenac, Kingston.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, under normal circumstances, Commons committees have the power to summon witnesses or to send for documents. But the Liberal chair of the Health Committee has ruled that right now, when his committee needs these powers the most, these powers have been taken away under the terms of the special order adopted on April the 11th in this House. Given this interpretation, will the government amend the special order it is today imposing to allow all currently sitting committees, including Health, to have the full powers they normally enjoy?
The Honourable Government House Leader.
Monsieur le Président, dans un monde...
Mr. Speaker, in an ideal world, this House would be filled with MPs, would be functioning normally. All the committees could function normally. But that's not the case right now. We are not in a normal situation. That's why we've taken responsible measures to try and sit here from time to time and to sit virtually to allow House committees to continue to work, to allow colleagues to ask questions of ministers, of health, or of finance, and we're doing everything we can to make sure those committees can continue to do their work.
The essential service personnel crossing our land borders to deliver the products we need and provide much-needed health care, including in hard-hit areas like Detroit, Michigan, make us all proud of our fellow citizens. However, global news has reported, and the CBSA Union has confirmed that there are no health officers monitoring these borders. Testing must be done to ensure that those most vulnerable to the spread of COVID-19 have not contracted this disease. When will the Liberals send health officers to our land borders to stop the spread and protect all Canadians?
The Honourable Minister of Public Safety.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. This is a very important question because the health and safety of Canadians, but also those men and women who protect our borders, is critically important to us as well. And I just want to assure the member opposite that all the steps are being taken to ensure, first of all, the protection of our border services officers, so that they have access to the equipment, to the personal protection equipment in particular, that they need to do their job safely. And at the same time, I want to assure him, for those essential workers that are crossing each and every day, we are making available to them adequate screening and support through personal protection equipment to make sure that they can do their job safely. And I take the opportunity to thank them for their dedication to serving their fellow humans. Thank you.
The Honourable Member for Fleetwood, Port Kells.
Mr. Speaker, it's been over a month since the world has become deeply engaged with this global health emergency. This government has demonstrated great leadership in putting in place health measures to protect Canadians. We know, though, that these measures have been difficult on workers and have caused economic uncertainty for Canadian families across the country. Can the Minister of Families, Children and Social Development update this House on how many Canadians the Canadian Emergency Relief Benefit, CERB, has been able to help since its launch 2 weeks ago?
The Honourable President of the Treasury Board.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm glad to salute the work of the Member of Parliament for Fleetwood and Port Kells. As he said, millions of families and workers across Canada are feeling the pain and the suffering that this emergency situation is bringing, and that's why we have also implemented emergency measures. One of them is the Canada Emergency Response Benefit, and I'm pleased to report, Mr. Speaker, that as of today, a total of 6.7 million Canadians have applied for the Canadian Emergency Response Benefit, for a total of 8.7 million applications. 8.4 million have been treated already.
The Honourable Member for Prince George, Peace River, Northern Rockies.
Mr. Speaker, businesses in the north have a very different need from the rest of the country. With shorter business season, industries like junior mining and exploration, it is clear that the government's one-size-fits-all approach to emergency business measures has sadly done little to support our northern economy. The Yukon, Northwest Territories and Nunavut Chambers of Mines, as well as other northern businesses, have said programs like the Canada Emergency Wage Subsidy will not work for the north. Will the government listen to these leaders and make changes so that our businesses in the north have a fighting chance to survive?
Honourable Minister for Small Businesses.
Mr. Speaker, those businesses indeed are really important to the communities in the north and indeed to the Canadian economy. And this is why we have introduced a number of measures. And one of the measures that we have announced just the other day is support through the regional development agencies, which will help those businesses in the north and to support them during this very difficult time and get them on the road to recovery when it is safe to do so. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable Member for Niagara Falls.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Earlier, the Prime Minister said that students would be eligible for CERB if they made $5,000 in the last year. However, to be eligible, they would also have had to have lost a job due to COVID. The vast majority of students had not started summer jobs when the crisis hit, and as a result are not eligible. Why did the Prime Minister say that these students would now be eligible? Can the government confirm now that it's going to expand the CERB benefit for the benefit of all students?
Well, President of the Treasury Board.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you to our colleague for highlighting the very difficult times that Canadians and students in particular are going through. And that's why we have reacted quickly by extending, for instance, student loans for at least 6 months, removing all interest and all capital payments. That's why we have also introduced the wage subsidies that many employers will be able to hire or rehire students. And that's why we also introduced the Canada Emergency Response Benefit, which is helping many students at this particular very difficult time. And that's why we'll continue to work very hard to support our students.
Honourable Member for Barrie, Springwater, Oro-Medonte.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. During this difficult time, Canadians are reaching out for answers, clarity, and reassurance. My office is receiving hundreds of calls and emails daily with inquiries about government programs. Canadians are very frustrated at not being able to get through on phone lines, or if they do get through, they can be on hold for hours. With enhanced safety measures, grocery stores, pharmacies, and banks all remain open to serve Canadians. Why, during the most needed time, do Service Canada locations remain closed?
The Honourable Minister.
We took the decision to close in-person Service Canada centres for the safety of the public in the context of COVID-19 pandemic, but also for the safety of our staff. However, we have enhanced and redeployed staff to make sure that there are many alternative modes of service, including online, but also telephone. We have dispatched community liaison officers to the most vulnerable communities in Canada to assure them that we will be there to serve them through other modes of service, as well as also going through trusted intermediary organizations. And finally, for folks who are not able to fill those forms, even with phone assistance, we will set up we'll make the extraordinary attempt to have appointments in person. Thank you.
Député d'Orléans.
The Honourable Member for Orléans. Mr. Speaker, more than ever, Canadians and people from Orléans are realizing to what an extent art and culture are an inherent part of their lives. It is in moments like this one that Canadians need art and culture more than ever in their isolation. Can the Minister of Canadian Heritage tell the House about measures put forward by the government to ensure that our artists, creators, and athletes can continue to inspire us and bring us together, even from afar, during this difficult period?
L'Honorable Ministre du Patrimoine canadien.
The Honourable Minister of Heritage. I'd like to thank the member for her question. This is a time when we need to stay at a distance from one another. Canadians realize that our athletes and artists are keeping us together and in solidarity, even from home. I announced an investment of $500 million to meet the needs of organizations in the cultural and sports sectors in order to support these organizations during this difficult period. Our government will ensure that more jobs are protected and that as many people as possible will not be left behind so that these organizations can contribute after the pandemic. We will attempt to disperse these funds as quickly as possible.
Fanshawe.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Corey Palmer is a small business owner in London, Ontario. Cranewise Inc. is Corey's brand new business, and he employs 5 people. Through the pandemic, Corey is keeping his employees on payroll, but because of the overly restrictive rules and the Liberals' wage subsidy, Corey and his employees are being left behind. Universal benefits would help Corey, his staff, and so many others. Why would the Liberals make the CERB universal for everyone in Canada and open up the wage subsidy to help small business owners and their employees through this pandemic?
The Honourable Minister for Families.
Mr. Speaker, that's a very important question. However, we made the decision for 2 reasons. For the CERB, one is to get money quickly to Canadian workers, to Canadian families as they need it immediately. And second, to get more money in the hands of those who need it, as opposed to sending a small amount of money to everyone.
The Honourable Member for Nanaimo, Ladysmith.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Will this government implement an emergency guaranteed livable income so that no Canadian is left behind in this COVID-19 crisis? My inbox is full of messages from constituents who are not eligible for the programs that have been put out. So students who are not eligible for these programs, seniors and people on disability who are dealing with a spike in the increase of the cost of living, small business startups that aren't eligible for any of the business programs, farmers that aren't eligible for any of these programs, some restaurants have just started up that aren't eligible. I've got people who were on sick leave last year who are not eligible for this program because they weren't working, they didn't earn their $5,000. I have a lot of people that need help, and I'm wondering, when is the government going to help with just a flat guaranteed livable income to help all the Canadians affected by this?
Families. Thank the honourable member for the really important question. The fact of the matter is, yes, a lot of Canadian families, workers, and students are facing difficult times in the context of COVID-19, but our government is steadfast to make sure that we deliver help to everyone who needs help in the context of COVID-19, whether it is the Canada Emergency Response Benefit that will enable many workers who have lost their jobs or who have been laid off as a result of COVID-19 to get the help that they need, but also the wage subsidy, which will help many, many businesses to keep and rehire laid off staff, as well as help that we've already delivered for students, but also more that we can do to fill the gaps that are necessary.
And that's all for question period for today. C'est tout pour les questions orales. Today, we grieve with the people of Portapique and Nova Scotia, and with the families of those who lost their lives so tragically through an act of senseless violence. Nous vivons tous des temps difficiles, mais aujourd'hui,
this is a difficult time for all of us, but today our thoughts are with the families that suffered the most cruel loss. We hope that they may find comfort in the shared grief of all Canadians.
Rise for a moment of silence. Order. Tabling of documents. Introduction of government bills. Statements by ministers. The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I rise on this day in this chamber as all of us and all Canadians are heartbroken. Heartbroken for the 18 people confirmed killed in a senseless act of violence in Nova Scotia. Heartbroken because the people whose lives were taken away will never be with us again. Among them was Constable Heidi Stevenson, who died in the line of duty. She was kind and she was gifted. She was great police, and she was a great mom. She embodied the values that built this country, values like integrity, honesty, compassion. For her community, she paid